Now, yesterday while I was on the subway, I overheard a conversation by a couple of people who were discussing Obama's radical and socialist policies. But the strange thing is that during this entire conversation, I didn't hear the mention of one socialist or radical policy. So I guess it wasn't even really a conversation. It was more of a non-conversation. But nevertheless, I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, what the fuck are they talking about? What radical socialist policies? So I scooted over to where they were sitting and I tapped one of them on the shoulder and I said, what the fuck are you talking about? What radical socialist policies? It appears to me that anyone who can utter this statement that Obama is a radical or a socialist can be classified in one of only a very few ways. One, this person must be a fool who has been duped into believing a propagandist slogan. If this is not the case, then this person calling Obama a socialist is an ideologue who has been brainwashed into believing that what falls outside his narrow and skewed political point of view is communist or radical or Marxist or what have you, if not terrorist. And if this is not the case, then the person uttering these idiotic words that Obama is a socialist is a politician or a political pundit whose career depends on spreading such lies and distortions. The fact is that Obama is nowhere near socialist. His policies are at most center-right, and some would even say far-right with his drone attacks in Afghanistan and Pakistan, his conciliatory demeanor towards Israel's racist right-wing government, and his belligerence towards the Islamic Republic of Iran via an intense campaign in the United Nations to implement new sanctions against that nation. Now, I know I talk a lot about Iran. Any of you who have watched me for a while can attest to that, but I'm going to spend a couple of minutes here discussing the subject of Iran and its nuclear program and America's stance towards Iran, because I feel that it's a matter of great importance. Now, the Obama administration would have us believe that with regard to Iran and its nuclear program, the Obama administration would have us believe that it has made the most vigorous attempts at diplomacy, which have failed as a result of Iran's repeated rejection of reasonable proposals. The Obama administration has now, well, the United States and the United Nations has now imposed a new round of sanctions on Iran, which frankly are a preliminary step towards military confrontation with Iran. These sanctions, which were threatened at the same time that quote-unquote negotiations were going on, are diplomatically aggressive and provocative actions. The U.S. threat that military action will be the means of last resort to end the conflict is a hostile statement uttered during a supposed attempt to reconcile differences. One cannot negotiate while staring down the barrel of a gun. Meanwhile, Obama, in speeches, is insisting that our new relationship with Iran will be based on trust and mutual respect. In fact, our relationship with Iran continues to be based on the desire of certain interests to remove the current Iranian regime for one that is more accommodating to international business interests and, of course, more friendly to the rogue governments of the United States and Israel. This is deception and lies that appear to be leading to very hideous and nasty occurrences on an unprecedented scale. This underhanded sort of diplomacy does not reflect a radical left-wing policy. These irrational, unethical, and given the state of things, even immoral actions do not reflect a radical left-wing policy. Anyone who says otherwise is simply playing the role of a parrot and is simply repeating the words of others, or is a brainwashed ideologue drone, or he's being paid to say it, like the Republicans in our government and also the mouthpieces of the far right wing of the American establishment. People like Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage, Bill O'Reilly, and Ann Coulter, whose primary function in our society is to ensure that those with political power and tremendous wealth maintain and increase that power and wealth at the expense of those of us that are not powerful and not wealthy. And it's interesting that these charlatans direct the preponderance of their venom at Obama, whose policies also facilitate the elite's expansion of power and wealth. Obama is nothing like a socialist, and he is nothing like a radical. And it's too damn bad that he's not a radical. We need more radicals in the world today. Malcolm X was a radical, and Obama is far from a Malcolm X. Huey P. Newton was a socialist and a radical. Eldridge Cleaver, Stokely Carmichael, Fred Hampton, and Bobby Seale were socialists and radicals. Angela Davis and Bill Ayers were radicals. On the other hand, Obama is a part of the American establishment, politically shackled by right-wing interests. The propaganda spread by certain right-wing elements, such as the moronic idea that Obama is a socialist, diverts attention from the fact that Obama has failed to bring about one of the most important changes he promised. That is the elimination of the system by which special interest groups control public policy. This is a fact that needs to be known by everyone, so that everyone might know that if Obama was our best possible hope of seeing the reform and betterment of the federal government, then the federal government will never change. Our system of government is a complete and utter fraud. I'd like to share with you an article I found. The article was written by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former editor of the Wall Street Journal, also former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury in the Reagan administration. The article is called "A Plague Upon the World. The USA is a Failed State." And here I quote, "Elections mean nothing, as both parties are dependent on the same powerful interest groups for campaign funds. The most powerful interest groups are the military security complex, which includes the Pentagon, the CIA, and the corporations that service them, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC, the oil industry that is destroying the Gulf of Mexico, Wall Street, investment banks and hedge funds, and the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies, and the agricultural companies that produce food of questionable content." That's it.